Danes predstavljamo posebno vrsto motociklov cruiserjev. Ti so v marsičem specifični, ampak mi jih danes obravnavamo zato, ker je njihova priljubljenost v zadnjih letih strmo naraščala, analitiki pa pravijo, da v prihodnosti ne bo prav nič drugače.
Eden glavnih ustanoviteljev tega razreda pa je seveda Harley Davidson. Da je Harley uspel tak velik met in da je postal mednarodno priznan in za marsikoga celo religija, pa je seveda potrebno spet pogledati onkraj luže. Tam so v težkih časih motoindustrije stopili skupaj filmska industrija Hollywooda, banke in pa seveda politika. Na čelu z Ronaldom Reaganom, ki se je celo osebno zavzel za znamko Harley Davidson.
Razloge za veliko zanimanja za te motocikle zdaj pa lahko vidimo tudi v tistih v 50 letih, ko se je vse skupaj sploh začelo. Takrat so na te motorje sedli vojaki, ki so bili v drugi svetovni vojni in so Harleyje srečevali med vojno. Potem pa so imeli čas, denar, iskali pa so predvsem nekaj drugega. To pa iščejo tudi vozniki teh motociklov danes.
Ker teh motorjev se ne kupuje zato, ker bi jih ljudje potrebovali. Za preproste prevoze bi si lahko kupili cenejše in enostavnejše. Ampak ti motocikli ne prinašajo zgolj vožnje, ampak tudi zgodbo.
Na zgodbi torej vse skupaj stoji ali pa pade. In če kdo ima svojo avtentično, utemeljeno zgodovinsko zgodbo, potem je to zagotovo BMW.
In prav zaradi tega smo obiskali Baško jezero, srečanje motoristov, kjer smo govorili z Maximilianom Renkom, po rodu Slovencem, sicer pa zadolženim za BMW-jevo dediščino pri BMW-ju.
So it's not about the product itself, but it's about the history and the heritage of the brand and the meaning of the brand beyond the pure product. So for us, it was very important to make those bikes with a boxer engine. We know Harley Davidson, Indian, they use V2 engines. The Japanese brands try to, copy them, but they have failed because they lacked the brand authenticity, the brand image. For us, our first bikes had boxer engines. The whole concept, the lines, the design, the layout, it roots back to 99 years to 1923 when we introduced the R32, our first motorcycle. You can see the same lines, the sloping frame, the hardtail style frame, the way the frame wraps around the rear hub. This is all found in our very first motorcycle. So we have our own authentic story and we wanted to show it in these bikes. So this is why, for example, we have the boxer engine. This is why we have the visible shaft drive in the back. These things are important. They are not just bling stuff. This is the basis of the product. If you look at those bikes, there is no plastic on the bike. So what looks like metal is metal. It's very important to us that the front fender, the rear fender, those are, even despite being heavier, these are true, genuine metal parts. The paints being applied, for example, the pinstriping being done by hand. It is a lost art that was only known to one remaining retired former employee of the Berlin plant, and we found that guy. And we asked him to teach 8 voluntary workers at our plant, young guys, they came in from tattooing or airbrushing, how to teach them the art of hand pinstriping, which is, it looks simple, but it's really, really difficult to get everything right. And those guys do it by hand. They just look at the tank and pinstripe with the brush in one stroke. There's no intersection, nothing. And this is really super, super cool to see. I mean, any robot could make a more precise hand pinstriping. But if you do it by hand, you know that there was a person involved who has been taught that art of pinstriping for months and years and has perfected this art. And this is what you can see, that small brush linings that are not totally homogeneous, but you see the small waves. This is what you buy into, the imperfection. If you start that bike, you can feel the bike shaking to the side just because of the brute force of the boxer engine. So this, you really, in the first second, you can feel this is a boxer engine. This feels different. This is our heritage. These are 2 cylinders moving side to side and rocking the bike. This is how our own brand identity and boxer identity comes to life.
Pri tej vrsti motociklov si proizvajalci še posebej prizadevajo doseči dodano vrednost, ki včasih nima oprijemljive, uporabne vrednosti, ampak nekaj posebnega, nekaj več, zaradi česar so pripravljeni kupci plačati več.
In to zato, ker si lastniki takšnih motociklov želijo biti cool.
For us as BMW brand, it was difficult to understand for some because we have been very good at making the best technological bikes in the sense of the fastest bike on the racetrack, the best, quickest bike on the mountain pass. And it was always something you could measure as an engineer. But with this category, the main asset of a bike is coolness. Do I feel cool sitting on it? Do I feel cool riding it? Everything, the technology should be not in your face. It should be like secretly hidden in the bike to make it a safe bike. So we have ABS and traction control and riding modes, but it's not the main purpose of this bike. The main purpose of this bike is make you feel cool and good and have a good time.
Pri takšnih motociklih pa velja še eno pravilo, ki seveda prihaja spet iz Amerike. Big is beautiful.
In koncepta Big is beautiful so se pri BMW-ju zelo dobro zavedali. Njihova prednost pa seveda je tudi to, da so lahko povečali svoj boxer, najbolj viden del tega motocikla.
If you go to the Opera, you have certain rules you need to stick to, the way of behaviors. And that's the same for the cruiser segments. There needs to be a certain size of engine. This is like a given rule you need to comply with to really be up to date and roll with the boys. A bike of 1200 cc is too small in the cruiser segment for the typical customer of a Harley-Davidson or Indian. So really knew it should be around 1.8 liter of capacity. And you can see on the engine it's written 1800 cc. So we stick to our European denomination of capacity, whereas the Americans use cubic inch. So 107, 114, 117 cubic inch is a certain type of engine size that is very popular in the American language. But we want to stick to our German engineer language. But we still knew that we would need to be able to have a certain similar amount of capacity and torque. It's not about the horsepower so much as the torque and the width of the torque bands. And this is only really achievable with a larger displacement engine.
In če kdo, potem BMW zagotovo ve, kako dominirati v svojem razredu. Ne sicer med cruiserji, a dovolj je, da pogledamo GS-u, enduro terencem, kjer je že nekaj let v samem vrhu.
Celo desetletji. Zato so se vstopa v razred cruiserjev lotili zelo premišljeno in sistematično. Ne bojo versko spreobračali lastnikov Harleyjev, ampak tistim, ki v ta svet šele vstopajo ali iščejo nekaj, kar ni Harley, ponudijo zelo avtentično zgodbo in rešitev.
We don't want to steal buyers from them. We want to have an additional offering. Well, there's not one single solution to solve the riddle. It's a mixture of various factors. Especially in the cruiser segment, it's all about the community. You were talking about market research before. The R90 customizing community is different from the big cruiser community. Let's compare it to, let's say, Opera, where R18 and Harleys are the opera, and the R90 scene was the musical. It's more open-minded, more flashy, more try new ways. Whereas in the opera, you would go to the opera in a certain type of suit, and there's a certain way of conduct at the opera, the way how you behave, and you all go there together. And we can see here at Farkasee at the European Bike Week, for example, this is a big opera. Everybody more or less has the same sort of suit, and they all follow certain unwritten rules how to behave, and the group riding is very important there. This is different from the R90 scene. So I think building the community and authentic experience together with others is very important when we talk about these big bikes. So you really need to not only ride alone, but have friends who also ride these kinds of bikes. And it doesn't really matter whether it's a Harley-Davidson or a BMW or an Indian, but just ride together and be part of the community. It doesn't really matter who you are or what you do, but in that very moment you put on the helmet and you start that bike, you become part of the community, and this is very important. It's not only about having a product placement in a movie. This is maybe the icing on the cake to give the positioning of the product, the icing on the cake. But it's really about creating the community.